Welcome to Module 5 for Week 5. This week we are going to look at the whole issue of models and designs in curriculum. I'm hoping that this module will be as enlightening and interesting as can be. But before we start, let's begin with a short word of prayer. Dear Jesus, the Master Teacher, we recognize you as the source of wisdom and understanding. As we go to this module, help that it will be easier for our comprehension. Bless all the members of this class. Help us all to continue to be focused on you as we endeavor to do our best. We pray with thanksgiving. Amen. We have come to a very interesting aspect of curriculum and instruction. In this module, we're going to look at various curriculum models and design. The first question that can be asked is, what are modules? Modules serve as guidelines to action. They are found in almost every form of education. Modules are documents used in education to determine specific aspect of teaching, such as the subject or the time frame, or even the manner of instruction. The models have numerous functions, but they are used to explain the level of curriculum, aspects of organization practice, aspects of classroom instruction, and the types of decision making. The question can then be asked, what is a curriculum module? Well, there are 3 pointers I want to list there. Curriculum module is a format for curriculum design, a simplified representation of reality, which is often depicted in a diagrammatic form. It is a broad term referring to the guide used to write curriculum guides. It's a framework for instructional methods and evaluation criteria. It also assists educational institutions with implementation of uniform standards by providing educators an example from which to teach. When we think of the word approach, we think of a way of dealing with a problem or situation. Now, in Module 1, we looked at the different definitions of curriculum. We're going to continue to look at some various approaches to curriculum. Curriculum as content, where curriculum is seen as a body of knowledge to be transmitted. Curriculum is seen as a product based on specific objectives of the curriculum. Curriculum is seen as a process sometimes, where it stresses the importance of situation or context in curriculum design. Curriculum as praxis, where it is not simply a set of plans to be implemented, but rather is constituted through active processes. And finally, curriculum as context. Curriculum is a social enterprise. We can look at approaches to curriculum from visual here. We look at the theoretical, the practical, and the productive, leading to the syllabus of the content, process, and product, which combines to form the praxis. As we look at the nature of curriculum modules, we can see curriculum as prescriptive, dealing with the product, and along with that we have the transmission, what curriculum designers should do, and how to create a curriculum. This comes under the product. But we also can see the nature of curriculum modules in terms of descriptive, where we have a process involved. The praxis is going to come into play. What curriculum designers actually do is going to come into that process, and actually what a curriculum covers. In this next slide, we see the interrelationship between the content, the product, and the process. This next slide shows the comparison between the product module and the process module. In the product module, once the teacher control is high, the content is high. As student control is low, the emphasis on social and life skills is also very low. In the process module, it is opposite to once the teacher control is low, the content is also low. As students' control is high, emphasis on social and life skills is also high. In our next slide, we're going to look at the curriculum processes and products. Curriculum processes is a collective term that encompasses all of the considerations about which are used to make choices in the development and evaluation of a curriculum project. On the other hand, the curriculum products result from the curriculum development processes and provide the basis for instructional decision in the classroom. So in summary, the summary of the curriculum models, the curriculum can be content-based. Lessons are based on stimulating content. Lessons can be outcome-based. What students have to learn in the lesson. Objective-based. What teachers hope to achieve in the lesson. So we realize that the objectives here are really for the teachers and not for the students. We shall continue to look at the summary of curriculum modules. Content-based curriculum, give me the product. Memorization and reproduction of factual information focuses is more on the lower level of the taxonomy. We have outcomes-based curriculum product. This tends to focus on the results rather than the means to achieve them. We have objective-based curriculum in the product. It describes what the teacher or student is to do, what subject matter is to be covered. We now go to outcomes-based learning, or what is known as backward design. Now, Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, says, to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so you would better understand where you are now, that the steps you take are always in the right direction. Backward design module of the curriculum, you start with the results and work backwards. Therefore, you identify desired results, objectives, you determine acceptable evidence, the assessment, and you plan learning experience and strategies. In the backward design here, you identify desired results, you determine acceptable evidence, and you plan learning experiences and instruction. And this is another diagram showing the same backward design. You start with a big idea and skills, accumulating assessment tasks, and then the learning events. Our Tyler curriculum module has 4 components in it here. The purpose of the school, the educational experiences related to the purpose, organization of the experiences, and evaluation of those experiences. These are the 4 areas of Tyler curriculum model. As we look at his module of curriculum design, we see that you start with the needs of society, the needs of the learner, and the nature and structure of knowledge. And so we see the coming together of activities, processes, and products leading out with the objectives. Another famous module is the Hilda Taba module, and she has 7 different areas in her module. Diagnosis of needs, formulating objectives, selecting content, organizing the content, and that's where the key concept and main ideas comes in the lesson planning here. Selecting learning experiences, organizing learning experiences, and of course we have the evaluation. Most of our teachings today tend to follow the Hilda Taba module or varieties of that same module. We come now to the Christian curriculum module. And here we see the student is at the center of that module. Personalized student learning. We see 4 different areas impacting on that student. Focusing on school success, building collaborative relationships, integrating technology plus teaching, and empowering teachers. As these 4 areas impact on personalizing student learning, we see that lives are transformed. And once the lives are transformed, it means that communities will also be transformed. This is the crux of the Christian curriculum module. But the Christian curriculum module hinges on a biblical worldview, where we have 4 different impacting areas coming into play. Values. What are my priorities? Values influences the behavior. What are the choices I make? The behavior influences the culture shaping. What impact am I having on the culture around me? And then I will reflect and will adjust. Are my biblical worldview, my values, and my behavior aligned? Now, as all these impact and they are cyclic, as we see in our diagram here, it comes up with the basic question here is, what do I believe? And this is the biblical worldview that will impact the Christian curriculum module. Lastly, we'll come up with a core of the Seventh-day Adventist educational curriculum module. Now, as we stated in an earlier module, every organization starts with a vision, and so you have a vision statement. The vision statement of the SDA educational system is for every learner to excel in faith, learning, and service, blending biblical truth and academic achievement to honor God and bless others. From the vision comes the mission, and the mission is to enable learners to develop a life of faith in God and to use the knowledge, skills, and understanding to serve God and humanity. From the mission comes the co-curriculum goals, and there are 3 of them here, 4 of them. Learners will choose to accept God as the Creator and Redeemer. Learners will grow in the knowledge and understanding of God's creation. Learners will creatively apply their spiritual, physical, intellectual, and social, emotional knowledge. And lastly, learners will demonstrate their commitment to the Creator through service to others. The core of SDA education curriculum has 4 different P's. The first one is purpose, and it asks the question, what is the Adventist worldview? We looked at that earlier on here, and we shall continue. The next P is plan, and the question that is asked, how can our curriculum reflect this worldview? The other P is practice. How can our instruction reflect this worldview? And finally, how can our assessment, the product, how can our assessment reflect this worldview? So we realize that all those P's forms the core which hinges directly on the SDA Christian worldview. The SDA Christian worldview has 4 different aspects of it here. Creation, which asks the question, what is God's intention? Then there is the fall. How has God's purpose been distorted? This is followed by redemption. How does God help us to respond? And from that redemption comes the recreation. How can we be restored in the image of God? So the SDA Christian worldview hinges on its purpose. And as Kiner says here, our students need a conceptual framework that ties everything together, enabling them to understand themselves, their world, and their place in it. Then there's the instructional components of SDA curriculum. Percy says every subject area should be taught from a solidly biblical perspective so that students grasp the interconnections among the disciplines, discovering for themselves that all truth is God's truth. And these components would be the essential questions. What overarching question provides focus for this unit? Then you have the content, big ideas. What main topics support the concept or the big idea? Then you have the skills. What precise skills should learners be able to do in relation to the content? And then of course followed by the assessment. How will learners demonstrate their learning? And as those four interact together here, the overall plan comes into perspective. The SDA Model of Instruction. Ellen White says, the greatest care should be taken in the education of youth to so every vary the manner of instruction, so as to call forth the high and noble powers of the mind. This module of instructions centers around four different areas here. Number one is the connect. Why is this information important to learners? Then there's explaining. What do learners need to know and how can they find out? As the following explanation is applying. How can learners practice what they've learned? And then the extent. How can learners share what they have learned? As those four work together here in that module of instruction, we have practice being produced, or practice emanating from that module. Finally, we have the SD Assessment Practice Plan in the module of curriculum. Again, four different areas. We have pre-assessment. What information is collected to inform instruction. Then there's the formative concept-based assessment. What evidence is collected to demonstrate that the learners understand the concept. Then there's formative skill-based assessment. What evidence is collected to demonstrate that the learners apply new skills. And then finally we have the summative assessment. What standard-based assessment are used to measure learner achievement? As these four aspects of assessment comes into play, we have the product being released or produced from the plan. McCarthy says, if you don't change assessment, nothing changes. Two PDF documents are in your course outline for this week. They will help you to understand the Christian perspective of the module of curriculum as well as the SDA module of curriculum. Thank you very much.